Right, it's live now. Welcome to the workshop number 4, English language skills, specifically about reading. Just to go over some basics really quick, would you mind muting your microphones when you're not speaking? Charlie, I think that's you at the moment, if you don't mind. And then throughout the workshop, feel free to unmute when you want to talk during the breakout sessions. Please open your camera if you're able to and feel comfortable doing so, and use the chat to comment as you like throughout the time. Emoji reactions and all that, that's all good. We want to be interacting as much as possible to get the most out of our sessions. It's been pretty awesome lately, so let's keep the ball rolling. Now let's keep moving on so we have more time for discussions and breakouts. So this is the format, similar to before. If you haven't joined one of our sessions before, that's okay, or watched one of our sessions before. If you're watching the recording, that's fine. So it starts off with an introduction, which is now, and then we'll get into actually revealing the topics, and the topics are going to set the scene for the discussion. Then we'll move into the breakout rooms and have little conversations around the talking points that are there. And then we'll do that basically 3 times. So there'll be 3 topics with some talking points, and we'll do that 3 times, rinse and repeat. Between each topic, we may come back to the main room and have a bit of a discussion with people about what we had in the breakout rooms, if there are enough rooms for us to get some good conversations going. And then at the end, we'll just wrap it up and maybe share some things that we learnt or enjoyed listening to or hearing about for today's workshop. Now, I guess the other thing I want to mention is, because we have a recording, I try to do the breakout rooms by having this main room as one of the rooms. Google Meet is a little bit slow when I'm trying to move people into breakout rooms. Just to let you know, if you are requested to be moved from one room to another, just sort of accept that invite, and it's just me moving you to try balance out the numbers and make sure we have someone in the main room where the recording's going, so that there is actually something to watch if someone wants to watch this later on. All right, that's pretty much it. We'll just get started into the topics. If anyone has anything, remember you can chat at any time you'd like to jump in. So our discussion topics, talking about building knowledge, teaching fundamentals. So we'll expand a little bit on that in the subtopics. Then we're going to talk about comprehension skills, so actually obtaining meaning from the written text. And the fun part everyone really wants to get to talk about is what motivates the students. So what activities can we use in the classroom, practical things? How do we inspire them to enjoy reading, or to get through any reading exercises we have? And now here's a good question from Andrew in the chat. You guys can feel free to reply there as well. What main subject do you guys teach? So it's not just necessarily a useful skill to have in English only, right? Reading is very useful in other subjects as well. Math is one that Andrew teaches. I used to teach science primarily as well, and reading is very important there as well. So it's good, very, very good point. Now, first topic we've got here is building knowledge, teaching fundamentals. And the subtopics are recognizing sounds from letters and sounding them out. So phonics and decoding, right? So that's really your sort of basic level. We've got a few Pratom teachers around here. I'd be interested to hear some Matiom teachers if you find some students struggle with that still. Improving vocabulary. All our English units, the basic units start off with vocabulary, basically. So how can we help them to learn those? Like, how can we build their knowledge base in a better way? And reaching the point of reading fluently, so that they can go through a sentence or even a paragraph and read without having to stop and think and guess exactly how to pronounce or how to say certain things, right? So how can we reach that point? Those are our discussion points. So I like what Andrew's done. We've put a question in the chat here. The first question you guys might answer is, what age, when we go into breakout groups, what age do you guys teach? so that can maybe start the conversation, because I think sometimes some people don't know who wants to chat first. Or maybe first everyone can answer the first question and say, hey, what age do I teach? And that could hopefully start the conversation, keep the conversation going. Okay, so I'm going to put a few people in different rooms here, and we will see how that goes. All right, I'm going to open up. Take a screenshot or a picture of this page if you want to see the little subtopics here. As I open the breakout rooms, which is about to start now. So give it a moment, and you'll be moved into your room. Okay, there we go. Right. Invites maybe out there. There we go. Okay, so this is one room itself here in the main room. So I don't believe you guys were requested to move. So we've got a few of us here. So Andrew, you teach math. What age level was it?
This year I'm teaching M3, M4, and M5, but I teach anywhere in a given year from M1 to M6.
Sorry, I turned my mute off so that I can hear you guys, but there's a lot going on. Sports day. I'm muted back, but I'm here. Sorry.
No worries,
and Jocelyn. She teaches what P1 and K3 around that age level.
Yes.
Early year levels. Great. Okay. I'm going to check on the other break room, but then I'll come back. Stuart, are you here? Feel free to chime in as well if you're able to. While I'm checking on the other room, feel free to maybe lead the conversation here, Andrew, if you want to get that going, get the ball rolling there.
Sure. So how do you guys do on the, hello Jocelyn, hello Stuart. How are your kids doing, and do you have any particular strategies for, essentially Phonics was his first issue, where it was how to getting them to sound out the letters. Are they at that stage? So Jocelyn, you're at kindergarten. Kind of, how are you doing that?
I'm pretty okay with my kindergarten. We are doing the phonics and CVC blends. 2 seconds. There's another teacher in the office also in a different breakout group. They do pretty well with it. We do a lot of the CVC blends and just like so the kids get used to like the 3-letter just reading practice. Now at the end of the term, a lot of the kids can do it on their own without waiting on me or repeating because they know the pattern of it. But still with our new books, they have these little storybooks at the end that sometimes use words from the unit and other times like different sight words. The kids who have more confidence are willing to just try and read those words. The other kids kind of like, I know bag. I know that word really good, and they don't try the other ones. But it still is kind of hit or miss. Some kids grasp it and they can read without me. Other kids are kind of like, she's talking, but we don't really know what she's saying. So it's continuation. By P1, it really starts to have the differential levels where some kids can read, they have parents who are native speakers. And then in the other kids are just kind of like, hey, I'm here in class and I know that letter, that's a B, but their reading isn't so good yet.
Do you use different strategies for when you're doing reading, if you have them read out loud, like different choral strategies, individual, groups of 3, the whole class, echo back? Like, how are you practicing that?
For my class, we do echo reading, and then when there's classes with students who have a stronger ability, sometimes I'll read first and then they'll take over. So then I'll encourage the kids who do know to read and the other kids can repeat after them. For P1 class, I typically show them the Happy Campers video and then we all try to read together as a group, but it's still very much repeat after teacher for the majority of the students.
Yeah, I would imagine so at that grade level. How about on vocabulary? Do you have any strategies for vocabulary, or anybody got any strategies for improving the kids' vocabularies?
If you're asking me specifically, I will answer. I just want to give other teachers a chance to as well. But I'm very big on gamification. If it can turn into a game, we utilize it as a game, and then the kids are using the words without thinking about it until we actually put it back on the board for reading again. But
Yeah, I'll say like I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum where if I'm subbing in to teach reading, it might very well be the M5 or M6 level. So they may have a higher degree of fluency. And one of the things we really then will stress is, okay, I'll give you your list of words. Now I want you to put it in ordinary English. See if you can define it by yourself and then just use it in a sentence, kind of stuff. So I might give them, write the words on the board or on my iPad, and then just they get to pick the word they want, and we just go through the list, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so different approaches for different age groups is certainly certainly true. You're going to have the big differences, right? So we've got quite a few teaching at the lower age spectrum from AP, a few representatives from APT school teaching Pratom. So what are some differences do you think there might be? So we heard Andrew said with vocabulary, they have to basically, well, my interpretation was you finding like synonyms or finding ways to say the same sort of thing for the older levels. What age do we think we can start doing that compared to like the lower Pratom, where you're actually just saying or like repeating and showing a picture, right? You just sort of do repetition and play games. What age do you think you can start to, I guess, play with that a little bit more and get them to use that information that you're teaching them in a different way? Who else do we have here so that's able to jump in with the conversation? So Andrew and Jocelyn are here. Maybe someone else can react with emojis or type in chat, or just let us know if you're able to unmute and have a conversation as well. That'd be great. Kevin's wants to jump in, but is unable to because the microphone situation isn't working. Would you be able to maybe jump in on Andrew's mic for a moment and see if we can get some audio through that way? It didn't come through. I can see your mouth moving, but no sound. Maybe Charlie, if you're able to jump in, how do you feel about teaching your age level? Is there anything you can do beyond just the sort of like those association of like new words with pictures, or is it mainly just kind of like repetitions and playing games to get them to learn?
Well, what I do for lesson 6, the story, the reading, so I laminate the story. So everyone's got a shared copy, and ask them to go. I read it on the screen, and ask them to read it with a finger, go along. And then I do a game where it's like find the word bigger, so they're scanning and finding in the text, because I think the students are quite low level, so it's quite a chunky text that is expected for them to kind of read. So I kind of break it down into like who's the first team that can find bigger, who's the first one that can find like larger, like, so I like look for words that they can point to, and I'll go around each table until they find it. So really having the story laminated and then going through with their finger so they can see, hear me speaking but actually reading it as well, the words sounding out.
Cool. Well, that's pretty interesting, because you might use scanning, techniques at a more intermediate level, right, to try and get people to find information pretty quickly through a big text, it's probably quite beneficial for them to have exposure to that early on as a technique just for recognizing vocabulary full stop, rather than looking necessarily for a specific meaning. So that's a really interesting way to do it. I like that, Charlie. Does anyone here teach maybe like M2 level, M1, M2, M3? How do we find reading changes like around that age group? Can anyone pitch in?
Yeah, I'll say that we also have M2, so from both teacher observations and also from having taught it myself previously, they have a broader perspective in the world. So now they have more words, they can color or paint with more words. They start to get more subtle differences, but it's still shades of gray. They're not in color, if you understand my analogy.
I hear you. Is that English program students as well?
Yes. So these would be students who are, let's say, I think they are A2 plus or B1 is where they would be on the CEFR level. And there's obviously a wide variety. Even in the M1 class, we have a couple students who are C1, and then we have kids who are struggling A1s.
Yeah, that is, I guess that does come up in our third topic of discussion in terms of activities, how to differentiate our teaching for those, the big range of students' efficiency or ability. All right, cool. Yes, a few people. I'll read this out for Andy. He's not able to talk. He's in the office, unable to unmute the microphone at the moment. You can start teaching synonyms at any age. Basic worksheets where students choose the word which is closest in the meaning. Matching words to photos. Have students use phones or dictionaries to discover meanings. Unscrambling words. CCQs for when you're reading as well. Okay, thank you, Andy, for jumping in there. All right. I think we can move on to the next topic, and we'll see how the conversation progresses. So the next topic we've got is about comprehension skills, so obtaining meaning from written text. Now, this can be at a more basic level as we start off just understanding, a literal just understanding of simple texts, like I went to the store and bought an orange or something like that, right? So very basic sentences, or we can get into more intermediate and advanced reading strategies and skills for our advanced students. We already just mentioned scanning with Charlie just now, but what are some other specific skills you may be teaching in the classroom, right? Whether you're skimming the text, trying to obtain meaning, teaching students to monitor their comprehension as they read, so that they can see where they're getting confused, and rereading as a strategy to improve their understanding rather than just sort of giving up or asking for help. Inferring meaning, analyzing, questioning, and critiquing, and more advanced skills there. Yeah, so let's see. Where do we, okay, so one question to give us all to start the conversation. What's a specific skill in reading that you teach in the classroom? Like you explicitly teach it. So, for example, Charlie's was, I'm teaching them scanning at the moment, so they can look for a specific word. What else do we have? Andrew, you want to say that? You just unmute for that.
Sure. I know from just watching a teacher teach reading to the M2s, one of the big things he was doing, his activity was how do we annotate the text? That you paid for this textbook, that you ought to be taking notes in the text, underlining, highlighting, circling words you don't know, all of the skills that we would know from our years, but they don't know that. They are afraid to write in the text. And I'll say, like, one of the activities I saw that he did that I liked is he started the class where his warmer activity was he got two groups of students up and he said, okay, I want you to pick something and write out whatever. And then he just went through and circled what they wrote and said, I don't understand what this means. Can you explain it to me? Getting them to talk it out. And then he got them on the idea of what he was doing was annotating what they had written, or maybe he circles any word he doesn't understand and kind of going through strategies that way. The other thing is then you can give them a sample sheet, a worksheet besides for the text where you have a target of what they should be writing or how they should be annotating the text. You model it out for them, but then essentially you check to make sure that they understand they should be marking their text as they're developing their reading skills.
Excellent. I like that. Has anyone else been practicing that, like truly utilizing the books and getting students opportunities to make it their own and personalize it with their own understanding, right? We had that maybe in the Pratom level. Have students haven't had an opportunity to do any of that or something in that sense? Okay.
I don't think you're going to be able to hear us. I don't know if you can. It's like a national anthem going in the background. I'm teaching feelings at the minute, so I'm able to do a lot of actions like angry, sad. So the vocab, I'm doing a lot of the actions and getting them to copy us. And then when I'm asking a question, they're either saying yes I am or no I'm not. So I've asked them to, if someone says yes I am, they have to, like, I've used angry a lot because I've asked them, I want them to say yes I am, and like either slam your hand down or stamp your foot, so they're doing the action. Or like if they're sad, I want them to go like this, no, yes I am, so that they're saying like yes as in I am feeling. So I'm hearing them speak. I'm hopefully drilling in the understanding of what they're saying yes to, and drilling in the newer words that they've learned as well. And they find it funny, so it's remembering it.
Yeah, I love that. That's it's also really I appreciate you being able to join the workshop and contribute despite the atmosphere that you're currently in. It's a little bit hectic over there. But no, that sounds awesome. They're able to extract their own sort of meaning from the text as well and personalize it. So that sounds really good. Helps them boost their vocabulary because you're attaching some actions to that. What else? Who else has got some other specific skills that they're teaching their students in terms of reading? Do we have any L's in the chat? Any you able to join in, Stuart, perhaps, or anyone else? Feel free to type it in if you're like Andy and you're in the office or you're somewhere you can't contribute. You feel free to type as well.
I'm going to test the microphone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Great.
Let's go.
Modern technology. So with the M1 Science, I've actually been prioritizing a lot of note-taking as well as research with the texts, because there is a lot of scientific terms that we have that can be easily simplified and explained. But I'm a big fan of note-taking and note reviewing. I do a lot of worksheets after note-taking that actually requires them to be doing independent research with their textbooks as well as with their notes. So they're actually able to review them and to be able to get a better understanding of them. We do a lot of step-by-step reviewing, just one step at a time, instead of just trying to get major chapters done in one chunk, to try to make it a little bit more easily digestible. So that's actually been working fairly well. Just a second, it's getting a little loud. So
no, it's good. Appreciate that, Kevin. Yeah, taking notes, yeah, annotating the book and then making your own notes for your own sort of understanding of what you're doing, so that you're really kind of getting them involved with the content. It's not just about like, oh, here's the content and make sure you try to remember this. You're actually getting them to read, comprehend, rewrite, summarize, or to put it in a form that they understand. So they're actually playing with the information a little bit more. I like that. Awesome. Something Andrew said earlier, I think I wanted to jump back on and talk about was, so you were doing or you were talking about observing a teacher who was doing the scanning, the highlighting, circling words you don't know. I think
as well as skimming.
Skimming, yes, excellent. And I think something as simple as like circling words you don't know and these kinds of annotations you do on the textbook are like using these reading skills are it's a great way to I guess provide an atmosphere in the way you teach or the kind of expectation in the classroom that, oh, this is a thing we do, and we do this when we don't know it. So it's okay to not know things, right? And so I think a lot of students have this pressure to make sure they know everything or to be perfect or something like that. But steps along the way, you don't know, right? And having a I can't think of the word, but it's like atmosphere or the way you teach or the environment you create in the classroom takes that into account and says, hey, this is a knowledge gap. We all have them, and this is what we do when we have it. And so we can find a way to highlight that, find it out, and do research, and then close that gap. And it's a normal part of the process, and you shouldn't feel bad for not knowing. So I think that's a really good reading skill that feeds into a lot of other skills, right? So if a student doesn't know when they are asked a question to speak out, not about reading, right? But maybe because they know that it's okay to not know when they're reading, maybe now it's not a bad thing if I don't know when I'm just trying to speak, right? So I think that feeds into their maybe confidence overall growing up, or their attitude towards mistakes or not knowing growing up in school, in the school environment and beyond, I guess. So I think that's a really maybe undervalued skill, perhaps. So thank you for sharing that one, Andrew. All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to jump in with on the reading, on this comprehensions part? We might be able to get to talking about some activities coming up soon, if we'd like. I think that tends to be the most favourable part of the day for most of the workshops. We like to talk about specific activities we can run. All right. No, nothing else for comprehension skills. Let's move on then, shall we? So. Motivation. So again, how can we make it fun in the classroom? What can we do? What activities can we do to get them to read and to maybe enjoy reading? And how can we inspire them to see it as a sort of good thing and get them engaged? So different activities. Here is our talking points. Different ways to practice reading in class. Inspiration, how to get students to want to read, like outside of class or just in class, right? Just how can you inspire them? And what we mentioned earlier at the start of the workshop, differentiation. So adjusting for a range of reading abilities or capabilities in the classroom. How do we manage that? And especially if we've got like a specific text that they're supposed to use, like do we how do we adapt to that? What do you guys think? What are your techniques? Feel free to jump in. I'll mute myself there.
Well, one thing that I've been trying to encourage the students to do for independent reading is to try and talk to them about, because one of the most popular forms of reading that I've noticed with my students is manga, Japanese comics. But my students love them, and usually they read them in Thai. And I've been trying to encourage them, say that it's actually incredibly good for your brain if you're trying to learn a new language, that reading in English, if you can find mangas in English to read, they're not the easiest thing in the world to find, but if you, in Thailand at least, but if you can do that, you will notice that the more you practice, the more that the English reading becomes a lot easier. Like, one thing that I would also tell them to use, it's like, if you have the manga with you, come across a word that you don't know, even though things like Google or dictionary.com are actually great resources if you want to look up the meanings for words when you're reading independently. Because that's something that I've had to do for years with my reading. And using resources that they have on hand can be incredibly helpful. So that's one thing I say. It's like, read what you like. If there are things that you enjoy reading, read those in English, because it'll make you a lot more comfortable. But that's what I've been telling my students.
Awesome. I love that. I might jump in here because I've actually seen, like, going on the BTS, like commuting to work or just out and about on the train here in Bangkok. I've seen people, maybe university age or like 20s, 30s, younger age people also reading manga in Thai on the train, on just scrolling through on their phone. And as you said, if you don't know a word in English as you're going through your own comic or whatever it is that you're reading, you, on some of these phones, you can have like an app that overlays, and you can do a quick translator, or you can do some sort of feature with an app, or like a Google feature or something like that can do a quick translate while you're reading. So it's not going to bog them down necessarily with trying to open up a dictionary and search for the word, and then go back to the phone or the comic book and continue reading and try to understand the story. Right? That can be a bit cumbersome. People used to do that, but these days it's so quick that you can do it on the fly, and you don't have to disrupt the flow of your reading session. So I think that's a really good idea, Kevin, and encouraging your students to do that's a great idea. Andrew's got a few things you want to jump in with. You've sort of written them, but I'll let you speak with your own voice.
Yeah, I'll say just in general, and obviously this is going to depend on subject to subject, but the more we can have active classrooms, where the students are empowered to control their own education, and we're merely the guides, the more motivation we're going to have. Obviously that's difficult in some subjects, but the books we still have to go on. But once we get done, whatever the required readings are, we can essentially curate a list of stories for them to pick between, and then just provide for them either an electronic version or a photocopy out, where they can read between different genres that they're interested in, whether that's young adult, whether that's science fiction fantasy, whether that's horror. It's what they're interested in, and if they're interested in, they're going to want to participate. Versus if we're reading a story on like Native American dance is something very American centric. I know that's been in the reading before. They probably don't relate to it. They don't know what's going on, whereas we will. The other thing is we also do have a club where the kids play D&D. There's a sci-fi fantasy club where the kids are involved to kind of encourage them outside of the class to continue participating, continue kind of their development.
That's great. I like it. It's the same for almost every sort of skill or subject, right? It's about getting them to have choice and autonomy in their education. So that's certainly very powerful. Reading, as Kevin pointed out, is a very powerful thing when they can read something they want to read, right? So and I think that's a really good option. The clubs sound really cool as well. Like not every school sort of has them set up, but like if there are possibly ways you could implement that in class or not necessarily in the lesson, but maybe between different classes, you can try and get them to like connect it with certain interests and try use English to talk about those interests as well, or to communicate in English about those interests in some form. Right? I know that we were talking about like D&D, or Andrew, you mentioned D&D, and they're like sci-fi, fantasy. Like these are topics that can involve a lot of reading, right? Which is beneficial for them to be able to read that in English. What about the other kind of subjects, though? So we've got a few math and science teachers here. What can we do to improve them or their interest in reading information about math or science if it's about the topic? Let's say you've got a specific topic that you need them to sort of study. How can we incorporate or modify or adapt our reading to try and get better engagement on these non-English specific topics like math or science?
I mean, one thing that I have always been a big supporter of myself is independent research. So, because with M1 Science, at least with the sciences that I've been teaching here, they teach a very, very broad area of science. So one lesson we'll be doing atoms, the next one plant science and things like that. And one thing that I've been trying to encourage students with science is with this idea that science is a very, very broad subject that covers a lot of different things. And there's quite a bit out there. And I actually am a big supporter of being able to do research in class to be able to find the information. Because, how do I put this? Like when you are able to discover it on your own, it actually does have like a really good feeling when you're able to do that. You can't really, force them to be interested, but if they do find aspects that they are interested in, it's going to want them to be able to pursue it more on their own, which is why I think research is just such a wonderful thing.
It's a very, very good point. People in general, not just kids, don't like things really forced upon them, but they're happy to discover the same things in their own right, in their own time, through their own choices. So that's a really good way to think about how information is delivered to students. So that's given me some food for thought as well. To like how could I sort of adapt things to give them, I guess, more. In a way, like you could also possibly make it like an illusion of choice, right? That they are, you're not necessarily saying, hey, you can study anything or go find something that you really like. You're kind of directing them in a certain direction, but previously you've laid something along that path, which they're going to walk into and discover, right? So, no, that's definitely something I can think about going forward. I like that. And just reading the chat here as well. Curated choice, Andrew says. I love that. So also the Andrew, you're saying you keep a small library of books that students can borrow. So clearly in English, so from classics to young adult kind of books. Like, is that just like in the BFITS office there at school, Andrew?
Yes. That's come about over the years where I've donated books, Spencer's donated books, Donnell's donated books. The problem is finding enough young adult. It's actually the young adults are the more expensive books. I put some of the classics in so that I try and pick. So like the Frankenstein is one they like, oddly. But Sherlock Holmes, etc. But they're just donations from teachers that we've kept around. And we probably have now about 50 books or so they could borrow.
Excellent. Oh, that's quite a substantial little library you've got going. 50 books is nothing to scoff at all. That's quite impressive. I thought about I was with another teacher, and they had thought about going to the library. And I happened to be at the school the day they did this. This is Lloyd, actually. He usually joins these workshops, but he's teaching at that moment. He was like, hey, we want to go to the library. And so they went together. I think it was Raz and Lloyd, and they went to the library together at the school. So like the Thai, actual school library. They went there and had a look around to see what was available. And they asked the person, oh, what kind of English books do you have? And they found like a whole range of English books on different topics and different subjects as well, different genres of reading, non-fiction and fiction. And it really gave they were quite excited about that. And they've thought about using those as something they could do in class, like bring those books and have them use it in class. And the staff were more than happy to accommodate that as well at the library. So you might be surprised about what kind of resources your schools actually already have as well. I think that's not to be overlooked. And I might see if I can make a note of the what do you call it, the library situation. Maybe there is like a little budget that we can get within BFITS to try and build up a little bit of a library at some of these other schools, or contribute a little bit to existing projects like that. Andrew, I'm not sure. It sounds good, and it sounds like something I think we'd want to support. So I'll see what's available. I'll sort of speak to the directors here and see if what we can do to help that situation. But I think that's a really awesome project you guys have already started contributing to and donating to. So thank you for sharing about that one. All right.
I was going to piggyback off of
So I don't know. That was only you. You should be able to be hearing your own voice when you talk. But
yeah,
try again.
Sharing a mic in the office. One of the other teachers. It was a loop of us. I'm sorry. I was going to piggyback off of the other guy saying the same thing about the anime. And if you ask sometimes I'm fortunate enough to have TAs in my class, so we can kind of like moderate and walk around. But having the kids like teach each other, sometimes it's way less stressful than having like the teacher talk at them, because it's like their 5th class of the day. They've been doing this all day long. So sometimes it's easier for them to remember if their friend tells them like, oh no, this is what this is and this is what it means. And oftentimes they can explain it in a way that's direct and very clear for them to understand in their first language, as opposed to the back and forth of me saying in English, the Thai teacher translating it, and then them trying to comprehend it. So sometimes peer-to-peer is really, really helpful, only if you have the time and the resources for it. Other than that, it can get kind of chaotic and messy.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that as well. And is there some is there, how do you, can I ask you to expand on that, Jocelyn? How do you encourage that or facilitate or sort of make it happen in the classroom, if that kind of makes sense. So do you have a specific format that you set up, or is it just like as an opportunity, it sort of just happens? Sorry. Do you mind expanding on that one again, Jocelyn? I'm not sure. Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, it depends on the lesson. So if we're talking about something that is kind of like plural and singular, I have these little flashcards, whatever else, where I can explain like in Thai there is no plural and singular, it just is. With these are butterflies, that is a caterpillar, explaining the differences between 1 and 2. I can drill it maybe 3 or 4 times in class, but then giving them an opportunity to walk to their friends holding the exact same little flashcard or whatever, and then just repeating it over and over again. And when they make a mistake, instead of being like, oh no, teacher and my peers heard me, their friend or whoever they were trusted enough to say it to is like, no, that's not right. You say it like this or you say it like that. Or once they've been corrected, now they have more confidence, like, oh yeah, I remember this. So when their next friend says something wrong, they can correct them. So it's more like we can walk around and see, but my classes are smaller and I do have more assistants. So on my own, I probably wouldn't risk doing that. But then it also depends on the topic. So if we're talking about like the last unit is food items, I like to eat this, I don't like to eat that. That they don't really need the peer-to-peer because they understand it pretty simply. But for the increase in confidence and communication, and like for the kids who might, oh, I think I understand it, but not really, but also won't raise their hand in class to say like, teacher, I need help understanding, they'll be able to say it to their friends, and their friends can be like, oh no, I like oranges, not this, or they can just kind of explain it in more clarity a lot quicker without external pressure of the other students and the teacher are like, oh, that's right, that's wrong. It's just immediate feedback with very minimal pressure.
Yeah, I like that. I like it a lot. It's certainly, they feel more comfortable with their peers, right? So being able to take a blow of being wrong from a friend pointing it out is a lot easier than when like an authority figure or a teacher points something out or tries to correct it, right? So it sort of softens their learning expectation and the sort of bumps along the road that go along with that, which is something I guess we were talking about earlier, which is good. I feel like you could even, like, maybe not for your age level, which is like, the young P1 sort of age level there, but for older age levels, you could probably incorporate like a process that students would follow in the classroom for learning and correcting each other, where you could introduce the process saying, hey, when we practice with our, whether it's like turn and talks or like little group discussions, or maybe you do like little quick breakout rooms in your own little in your classroom throughout your lesson, sorry. And during those times, if you say something wrong, someone else has to, the first person to notice it has to, they have to say it, right? Maybe they're racing to correct each other, but then you also have to give them guidance probably on how to correct their friend. It's not just like a ribbing session where you're just like pointing out, oh, you got it wrong, you got it wrong, you got it wrong. You have to give them guidance on what to do for each of these steps. All right, what was wrong? Okay. Then someone else has to give them the correct way to say it. And then they give them the correct way, and then the other person has to have an opportunity to say it again, right? So maybe when students are old enough to have more guidance, you could give them steps to follow, which would be more positive for them to learn, I guess, to learn from their mistakes in a peer-to-peer situation. Okay. Does anyone else want to jump in with anything? We've got 10 minutes left, so we'll probably just finish off this section here. What are some specific activities, like actual activities that we've run for reading in the classroom?
One activity that I've actually had quite a bit of success with is actually crossword puzzles. Yeah, crossword puzzles have actually been really successful, at least in my class, because it actually does encourage. Because in class, when we're doing crossword puzzles, their phones are on the wall pockets, so they have to use their textbooks and their notes to be able to look up information. And going with peer-to-peer teaching, like the students are actually very eager to help each other out as well. So that is something that I do like doing in class. That does really help the kids with their reading.
Excellent. So you're not even necessarily, like, you may be setting it up with technology and printing it off, right? I presume on a piece of paper, but then you're taking
Yes.
content from the book, but they have to go and research from within the book to actually get their answers. So
yes, sorry, yeah, it's printed. It's actually paper and printed, because I'm actually, when it comes to reading, I'm a big supporter of actual textile feeling. I don't like the idea of reading from a screen or off of a phone. Like, I like the idea of having paper or pen with the feeling of the book in there. So
I think that's that does make a difference for a lot of readers as well. You know, some people really like their Kindle or their whatever else that allows them to read at home, but some people just really have tried that and can't get into it and would prefer to have the paper books. You know, some people are really specific about the type of books, like hardbacks or anything like that. You know, and part of that is probably the tactile feeling of reading, and so it's a really good consideration that you've made for your students there, like that. All right. Anyone else want to jump in with an activity that they've run for some reading in class? And probably finish up after just one more. Charlie.
Just with the classwork around feelings, I've got the picture up on the screen, and then there's like 3 options of like, so the question is she angry, in a picture of her angry, and then there's 3 options: no, she is not, or no, he is not, or yes, she is. And so they have to read either yes, she is, or no, she isn't, and then actually read again to say, is it a he or a she? And then actually speak and say it for the quite. So they have to read the 3 different options and match which one it is. So it's like a game, but they're not realizing they're actually reading the 3 of them to like actually find out the correct answer and say it, like in elimination, and then say it, which I feel like it's they're doing a lot of work, but it's simple. And I'm also hearing them speak as well.
Yeah, good. That's another part. We sort of didn't really dive into this this session, but reading like aloud versus reading silently as well. Like that, we sort of haven't dived into the conversation around that, and you know, some, as you were pointing out, saying it as you read, like saying it aloud, can help learners understand what they're reading, right? That it can help them associate these words with actual sounds, like what they're seeing on the paper with the actual sounds that they're supposed to be making, and meaning from that. Whereas sometimes, you know, you could be doing reading activities and people don't want to speak out or they're too shy. So you can substitute class reading where they're reading out loud, for more individual silent reading time. So which could give people more access into reading, even if they're shy speaking up. So there's definitely a good amount of variety you can do to change the way reading is done in the classroom to have different purposes, right? To achieve different goals. Andrew, hold on, what have we got there? We've got a few chats I missed. Drilling, you've got Group A and Group B for dialogue. Yeah, so you've got modelling parts of the conversation. This is coming from Dina. So you've got Group A says one part of the dialogue and Group B says the other parts, and then you do a switch, right? and get them to repeat the other one. And Andrew's seen some teachers do scavenger hunting, so they've got clues written down, and then they have to go and run around and find the things, which can be pretty cool. Pretty cool activity that gets them moving around and making sure they're comprehending, so they can move forward in the scavenger hunt, right? So that sounds pretty exciting. All right, well, that's pretty much that's time. We've got 3 minutes left. Did anyone want to share any particular parts they enjoyed or got something out of from today's session? Andrew just quickly added they also like riddles. Awesome, I like that too.
I can vouch for that.
Good. If you know what they like, lean into it, right? I think there's no need to reinvent the wheel when they've already told you what they like.
Yeah. The other thing I've seen, which I thought was funny, it's a play on what we would have done when we were younger, was using the vocabularies, make up the ad lib thing or the mad lib, where they fill in the word to make where they can make it as funny as they want. You add in other names, teacher names, student names, etc. It encourages them to play with the language, not just to memorize the terms. And if they think it's funny, it's memorable for them.
I haven't looked at one of those Mad Lib ones for ages. Yeah, like insert an adjective here, insert a noun here or something like that, and then you read the story, and then you get some crazy story because you've inserted this noun like a basketball, but it was like a completely weird story, and this basketball was not supposed to be in that point. And you know, you can really make it random and funny and entertaining, I suppose.
The other thing is then you have the kids vote on who they think is the best. So you get student involvement on 2 different ways they try and top each other.
Oh, excellent. Good. They sort of can lean into writing as well when you're getting them to come up with their own. So I mean, all these language skills are linked, but that's a great one for both reading and potentially writing there. Charlie's really happy with the library idea. See, what could come from that. It sounds like a really good one. Thank you. I think that's really awesome as well to hear about. Would have been one of my highlights from today's workshop, hearing about that one. And one of my favorite parts certainly was thinking about how annotation and note taking and just being aware of and acknowledging mistakes or not necessarily mistakes, but not knowing something right is a normal part of the learning process. And so I think finding ways to normalize that in reading helps normalize it in other contexts as well. So that's something I really appreciate from today. If anyone has anything else, feel free to unmute and just say it. Otherwise, I think we're nearing the end. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I will send out those certificates when I get some time. Most appreciated. Thank you for sharing as well, and we'll see you around. Cheers.